Now we are live on Facebook. Right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the webinar on exploring autism, diagnosis and management. The webinar is hosted by Karnataka State Physiotherapy Federation, and today's speakers are Dr. Ragini. She's a pediatric and neonatal physiotherapist, director of Brain Child Development Center, Gulbarga, Karnataka. We welcome you, madam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
We also have with us Dr. Sudhira K, Associate Professor with Padma Shri Institute of Physiotherapy. She would be moderating this session. Thank you for accepting the to be the moderator, madam.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Today we also have with us our very own Joint Secretary, Dr. Amit Husur. Sir, I welcome you also to this webinar, sir.
My pleasure, Mahendra sir.
So I would first want Amit sir to welcome everyone, and then Dr. Sudhira madam can just take it forward.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, all the KSPF members and all the physio staff, physiotherapists all over India and wherever you are listening to this webinar. It's my pleasure here to be on this webinar by Dr. Ragini on the topic of exploring autism diagnosis and management, which is really need of an hour in today's time for the during the pediatric treatment and various other conditions. And I would like to thank KSPF for conducting such a series of such a great webinars. And I also like to congratulate all the newly elected KSPF members. And I would like to thank all KSPF board members and other dignitaries for keeping having a faith in us and giving this responsibility. I hope we'll definitely keep up our words and keep our responsibility. And this is a great webinar, and hopefully this will help you all the physios here to learn and take this opportunity and practice it in their daily practices. And on the same note, I would also like to thank KSPF members for keeping such a great webinars, and hopefully we will continue this one for future days. And we, from behalf of all the newly elected members, I would like to assure you that whatever our seniors have brought the KSPF physiotherapy field in the form of KSPF in Karnataka, we'll assure you that we'll take it ahead more from here to the greater heights, and we'll see to it that all our necessary needs will be, all our fundamental requirements will be fulfilled to the maximum. I once again thank KSPF, and I once again thank Mahendra sir for inviting me here. And I wish all the best to Dr. Ragini for this webinar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Amit Husur. It's a pleasure having you all with us, and I'm sure we would work towards a better future for the profession of physiotherapy. Thank you, sir. So, Dr. Sudhira, madam,
Yes,
can you
sir.
please take over and start the session, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, good evening, viewers. We are very happy to have each and every one of you with us. So, for today's webinar on autism, exploring autism diagnosis and its assessment and management. So, we have Dr. Ragini Malsure with us. So, Dr. Ragini is a pediatric and a neonatal physiotherapist, and she is the director at Brainix Child Developmental Center at Gulbarga, Karnataka. So she is very well trained, and she has a strong experience working with differently able children, as well as designing therapeutic programs to assist children and in overcoming motor as well as sensory issues. So we are happy to have you here with us, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
And as all of us know, autism is a serious developmental disorder that impairs a child's ability to communicate and socially interact with peers as well as family members. Oftentimes, there is a confusion relating to this while we try to diagnose it at a very early stage, and as the symptoms can widely vary. So often we wrongly diagnose it as a delayed speech or mental retardation or ADHD. So here we have Dr. Ragini talking to us from the vast experience that she has in treating these children. And she'll help us to understand how we can diagnose these children as well as help them cope up with their issues. So over to you, Dr. Ragini.
Thank you, ma'am. First, I would like to thank everyone. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Sai sir. Thank you, Amit sir. And thank you, KSPF, for arranging such workshop and giving chance to, new generation for such things. I'm very glad. And we are going to talk today. Ma'am, can I start my screen sharing?
Yes, Sabina,
Yes.
you can.
So yes, today I'm here to talk about autism. Now, why I have chosen this topic is, I'm sure there are a lot of freshers who are going to start, who must be watching this, and obviously the senior therapist as well. So a lot of kids these days, not just cerebral palsy, but we are getting a lot of kids with speech delay. There are a lot of kids who has problem in terms of cognition, in terms of communication, and we often get confused whether it is developmental delay, whether it is global developmental delay, it is autism or something else that we don't understand, and we just start with the therapy. Obviously, understanding of this topic is not very easy, but I'm just trying my best to give a gist of it. I hope this will help to all of you. Yes, my screen is visible, ma'am?
Not yet, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, now it's visible.
Okay. So that's why I've said exploring autism. We are not going to go deep into autism, but yes, we are just going to explore it, and we are going to find out where we can really, like, what are the things that we really know, we should know to help our kids. So I'm going to talk basically about what is autism, how to diagnose it. As I said earlier, that we are not the one who's supposed to diagnose it, but yes, we should know about it so that we will not do harm to our kids. And then a brief management, because there is no cure to the autism. So we are just going to see a few strategies and techniques how we can manage it on our clinic level. In that, I'm going to tell a little bit more about Asperger's syndrome, Rett syndrome, childhood disintegrative disorder, pervasive developmental disorder, not otherwise specific, and then definitely about autism. So it is a neurodevelopmental or neurobehavioral disorder. It is first described by a Kanner, who was a psychiatrist, and he differentiated it from the childhood schizophrenia because there was no differentiation before. And then these all disorder, initially they used to call it as pervasive developmental disorder, that is PDD, but now they have separately diagnosed it as autism. It's very easy to remember, like if we are seeing these three domains, the child is having problem with these three domains, then definitely we can say yes, the child may have autism. So first is social interaction. Second is communication, in terms of it could be verbal communication, it could be non-verbal communication, and the patterns of behavior or the stereotypy. Now, since, as I said, I'm not going to go in great details, but we should know what is autism and what we are going to deal with. So here is small video which I want to share with you all. So we all are different. We have different style of, we have different hairstyles, we have different dressing styles, we have different heights, we have different gender, colors, and so on. These differences, there are few differences can be seen, which cannot be seen. There are different fears, different likings, different special skills, different interests. Yes, the world is full of differences. And in the same way, what things we see, it's not the same thing that others see. Like, I am seeing this is a rabbit, maybe someone else may see it differently. But in all cases, we all are right. Because our brains work in different situations and different patterns. So now our brain is like computer, you know, we learn things, we achieve things, but we all are different in learning a lot of new things. We can communicate in different ways. But when these signals which are going to brain gets hampered, we communicate in a little different way, you know. So few kids are very good in making friends, few are not. And that's what we are going to see here. So if you know someone who is having autism, maybe that someone don't like to make friends. He may not like to behave like others. So if the child, this person is having autism, he also, like these other 3 kids, he is also normal, but he maybe don't like to talk to them. He may be good in math, good in music, or something else, but he may not react in the same way how other kids are reacting. Now, this specific thing which I am showing here, this is a part of sensory integration, like the different senses the brain is not going to process. And this we are going to see at the end of the talk, how we can deal with it. There are 90%, 80 to 90% of the kids with autism who shows problem with the sensory integration. Now you and me will perceive the world in this way. Whereas the autistic brain will perceive the same world like this. There is a lot of light coming, the car is honking, the dog is barking. I don't like to go next to the person, and I'm trying to soothe myself. Now, soothing yourself has different strategies. Like when you're scared, maybe you will bite your nail, you will shiver, you will start moving your legs. But our kids are doing the same thing in a little different way. See, we all do this. Whereas our kids do this. And we say that's abnormal. Is it really abnormal? I don't think so. So these are just strategies that in this way they feel calm. And I think it's absolutely okay. You must have seen kids, you know, banging, moving, head banging, biting their nails, hitting others. So these kids are just not placed at the right people, with right people at right places. Maybe they don't like to be with others. Just as simple as that. But they have their own way of communication. We need to understand it, and we need to be friends with them. So today is my entire talk, whatever I'm going to talk, the moral of the take home message for the entire talk is just be friend with them, because autism is amazing. So moving to next, incidence and prevalence. Let me tell you, this is the 3rd most common developmental disorder in the world. Like if you see the data which is recently published in 2019 by Chauhan, 11 kids out of 1,000 kids in India have the problem of autism. Okay, and this is specifically seen in the rural areas, which was like a little surprising to me as well. Whereas 9 kids per 100 kids are from urban areas, and the incidence is 1 in 90,000 to 12,000. Now, if you see the population wise, the China's population is almost more than India's population. Still, the ratio in China for autism is just 1 in 1,000. Whereas if you see in India, it is like 1 in 250, which is little depressing. And over 3 millions of kids are having autism. That's, you know, increasing the burden on our shoulder. So as a physiotherapist or as a professional from a sensory integration field or from the rehabilitation field, we really be very keen in treating these kids or helping them out. Now DSM, I'm going to talk the autism spectrum disorder in terms of DSM criteria. Now DSM is Diagnostics and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorder. Now in 2000, DSM-4 came, and I'm going to talk about these disorder in terms of DSM-4 because it is easy for understanding, but we are currently following DSM-5. So what is the difference between DSM-4 and DSM-5? As I mentioned in my first slide, that if we are talking about autism, there are three main domains, that is social impairment, speech communication deficit, and language delay. And along with that, there is a repetitive or stereotypic behavior. Whereas in DSM-5, what they have done is they had removed Rett's disorder. They have combined REST for all, and they also combine the main two domains, that is social impairment and speech and communication, into social communication. So if you see here, we have autistic disorder, Asperger's, we have CDD, we have PDD, NOS, and Rett's. So they have taken out the Rett's and they have combined all four into one domain, and to first three domains they had just made two domains. So now let's talk about individual syndromes. First is Asperger's. Now when we are talking about Asperger's, let me tell you, the third one is not Shah Rukh Khan. He's Shah Rukh Khan's character from My Name is Khan. So if you really want to know more about Asperger's, please go and watch the movie. Bill Gates, yes. Michael Jackson, yes. Another famous personality. So if you read about Asperger's, it's very interesting. These kids usually don't have any problem with in terms of their cognition, you know, like Bill Gates, yes. And they also don't have any problem in terms of language abilities. Like they are usually, they can speak fluently, but the tone is very much monotonous, or you can say the droning voice is there. They have difficulty in reading social cues. Like if I want to suggest something to you with my eyes, with my gestures, this, if someone is with Asperger's is with you, he will not definitely miss those points. Now what is the problem? The problem is they always have not always, most of the times they do have problems in terms of relationships. They also have lack of spontaneity. Like if I, though they have a very good IQ, usually Asperger's are the one who fall into high intellectual level, high IQ autistic babies. But yes, they have they do lack spontaneity. They have difficulty in making friends. They are usually having a lot of difficulty in terms of their motor skills. So yes, Asperger's is very interesting thing if you see per se, but they do have a lot of symptoms or signs which are related to autism. The next is Rett's. This they have already removed it, but why I kept, they have removed it from DSM-5, but still I kept it here just because we do get confused when the girl with autistic disorder come to us, and we you know, we don't understand very often that what it is, and we feel that it could be a syndrome. And in that case, we need to definitely go with we need to check with the Rett syndrome. So it's primarily affect girls. That's usually 1 in 10 to 15,000 girls. 1 in 15,000 girls may have Rett syndrome. It is genetic disorder, and it's usually single gene mutation which gets affected. Now in this, what is normal is first 5 months of development. Now you can say till 6 months, the child is growing absolutely fine. The all milestones, all the development is fine. And after that, we start seeing regression in terms of milestones. Now this regression is mostly seen till the age of 30 months. So 6 months till 30 months, the regression starts. This regression is usually seen in terms of their hand activities. Like you will see a lot of hand flapping. They usually have very small hand and feet, like I tried showing few pictures. So they don't look very abnormal, but yes, they do have few things, like the deceleration of head growth starts after 6 months. So they usually show microcephaly. There are repetitive movements of hand flapping, I already said, and hand to mouth postures are very often they show hand to mouth. Now, third one is childhood disintegrative disorder, that is CDD. Now, as I showed in picture, and as the name suggests, it is a disintegrative disorder. So, development appears absolutely normal till first few years of life. That is usually till 10 years of child's life. Child is absolutely okay. And later on, they start regression in terms of their speech, their cognitive behavior, and their communication. It reaches to the point that we start feeling that it is autism. But what is the difference than the normal autism is, later on these kids started showing the problem with their bowel and bladder. They also have seizures, and they also, it is also associated with mental retardation. So low IQ, these are basic symptoms. And yes, here also the boys are more affected than girls. So whatever I'm talking till now, like in Asperger's also, except Rett's, CDD, and even next one, the PDD NOS, the boys are more affected than girls, and the ratio is 4 boys per 1 girl. So if the 4 boys are having autism, we like behind that only 1 girl is affected. The next one is pervasive development disorder or not otherwise specific. Now, lot of therapists get, they feel that it is mild autism. No, it's not mild autism. We can call it as atypical autism, because this autism may not fulfill the entire criteria which is required to diagnose it as autism. Now, if you ask me what is the exact criteria, as I mentioned, that is DSM-5. If you can check online also, the DSM-5 criteria for autism, or there are a lot of psychiatric books which talk about these things, that how to diagnose it. So there are specific criteria, and out of 4 points, all 4 points in first domain, out of 4 points, at least 2 points in next domain. In this way, we do the detailed evaluation. So for pervasive development disorder and not otherwise specific disorders, they don't meet this criteria. It is just these things are present in the milder form, but it is atypical autism. And these kids do lack social reciprocity. So like if someone is saying hi, in that case, we also need to say hi. These kids don't understand that. So this is very simple thing. Maybe you will feel the child is absolutely fine, but he may show problem in terms of communication in this way. Clear? So now what is ASD? Like what is autism? So autism is from A to Z, or I think beyond that. So it has your OCD characteristics, it has ADHD characteristics, it has a compulsive disorder, it may be having depression, it has sensory integration disorder, it has developmental coordination disorder, it is everything. So DSM-5 makes it very easy that these all things fall into ASD. And these all things we don't have to differentiate into 4 or 5 different things. Now it is autism only. Now let's talk about sign and symptoms. So when we can diagnose it, you can start seeing actually it from early infancy. Like if the child is not giving good eye contact, if he is not focusing or tracking things, if there is delayed communication, the babbling, or maybe this child is looking at mother and smiling, or his eyes blink very nicely when he sees mother, or there is a smile on his face, even this is a form of non-verbal communication. If the child is continuously looking at hands, the parents usually come with a complaint that my child is continuously looking at fingers, or he is not interactive with toy, he is not interactive to the environment. Like if mother is going from one end to other end, at least the child who's 2 months or plus, he should look at the mother, or at the like the newborn baby should turn the head to 30 degrees if some toy is shown to him. But if the child is not showing these things, then we have to definitely seek help. Now, early signs, what we can see at the toddlerhood, if the child is in the initial 6 months, if the child is not having any single word, like if the child at 24 months, he is not saying 2 phrase words, there is no babbling, there is poor eye contact, if the child is not showing any skilled activities, there is no response to what we are talking, and so on. So if you see the social cues, there are very simple things which we can observe. So these kids usually shows delays in normal development of speech, of communication. They show less interest to the world. They have minimum eye contact. They do not respond to sound. Like if name has been called, they usually don't respond. Now, a lot of us get confused, like mera bacha dekhta hi nahi hai. Like if this is a normal complaint from the parents, this is also seen in ADHD, right? Where they are engrossed in particular activity, or where they have poor attention span. So please understand, these are one of the social cues. We have to see the other cues as well. And they cannot carry out the simple instructions. Now, communication issues. Now, communication is not just in terms of parents. It could be in terms of their friends. It could be in terms of relatives. It could be in terms of their school. So, difficulty in coping up with the changes in routine is another form of communication. They have overly attached to certain toys or objects, and they see when they can't communicate, they use usually these toys as the soothing material. So if a child coming to you with a car in hand, which is most commonly seen thing, so usually therapists try to snatch that car out from the child's hand and they go with the therapy. And in that, the regulation, we need to go for the regulation of the child. We dysregulate the child. The regulation goes for a toss. And after that, if you are trying to give your therapy, maybe you're the best therapist in the world, but after that, you're trying to bring that child again to your zone, it's very difficult because he already lost trust on you. So yes, they usually show a lot of emotional outbursts. They cannot keep calm. They also show some rituals, specific rituals, like few kids have routine which is fixed, and in that routine they need to wash their hand, as I mentioned, the compulsive disorder, OCD. So if we don't follow that, the child gets upset again. So that's again form of disorganization, which we never want. Now, sensory issues, I'm going to talk about it in detail, but still, I'm just mentioning it here that they have sometimes, the sensory integration theory says there are three main domains which get affected in terms of autistic children. The first is the tactile system, second is the vestibular system, and prop is always deficit. So there are a lot of studies which are available which says that if we deal with these three systems properly, we are we get the maximum best results. So they do have strong reaction to certain sounds, like they don't like birthday parties, they don't like to go to crowded places. For example, you are traveling, you are taking them to railway station, they just cry, they howl. Otherwise, the child is absolutely fine, but the moment I'm taking my child, to a railway station or probably to the airport, the child started howling, crying, or he's keep his hand on your, he throws things around, he run around. Then walking on tiptoes, again the tactile hypersensitivity. Then continuously looking at certain lights, even that is form of hypersensitivity to light. They also are show aversion to touch, like they don't like being touched. They don't like hair washing, hair cutting, nail trimming, very common complaints. These you can see. Yes, specific food habit is one of the issue that usually parents come with. And these issues we can definitely check on the sensory profiles, which is again the sensory profiles are available at specific age, like 0 to 6, 7 to 23 months, and 3 years and onwards. So we can check these sensory issues in terms of these questionnaires. They also have certain habits, like they like to wear full sleeve. The parents come with a complaint that baki sab theek hai, but child don't like to wear full sleeve, don't like to wear sleeveless, though they don't want to go barefoot. So these are the things where we have to check with the sensory issues which may present in our autistic kids. Repetitive behavior, very common complaint now. These kids do have specific likings, like they keep looking at the fan which is continuously moving. This keep on spinning themselves. They do spin the bottle, lid of the bottle or bottle itself, then the car wheels. They like to bite themselves or bite nails or chew their dress or sometimes chew their hair. They have self-injurious behavior, and it is very difficult to snatch anything from them. Like they have specific likings of car, I have seen. There are likings of pens or specific thing which they get stick to all the time. Play behavior, you must have seen this very often, that they like to stack things. Again, the compulsive traits do visible at this stage, that they stack things very often. They like to be now there are things where they like all the things together, or sometimes they don't like anything next to them. They don't prefer to play with others, so it is more of the solitary play. there is no imaginative play. So if you think, I will play doctor, doctor, or I will play teacher, teacher, this you will not see in our kids. So there is absence of imaginary play, which is further related with the mirror neuron systems. But yes, they don't show such things, and they seems to be in their own world. So they have their imaginary world where they play by them with themselves. They don't like anyone near them or in their territory, because it's their territory, their game, their rules. They usually don't wait for their turns. So again, they have very limited structure of their play. Now, in terms of relationship issues, as I mentioned earlier, relationship could be in terms of friends, in terms of siblings, in terms of parents, teachers, also in later life with their husband or wife, like the spouses, in terms of their girlfriends or boyfriend, or these issues are also associated with the social life, like where they are working, the colleagues. Now, let me tell you that the autism is such a disorder that we have a lot of people who are around us who have great coping skills. That's why we cannot see them, but few of them do have these traits in them, and they're still coping with us. But they definitely show problems in later life in terms of relationship issues, relationship with their colleagues, relationship with their subordinates, everyone. Now, how I can help you, or how we can help each other? Toolkit, very simple things. If the child or the parent are coming to you that the child is not giving eye contact, not talking to me, so we cannot directly jump to the conclusion that okay, cognition acha nahi hai, communication acha nahi hai, IQ nahi hai, let's the child is autistic and start the therapy, put him on the swing. No, we can't do that. So let's talk about the history taking. History taking is very, very important, where we need to know about child's routine, whether he has rigid rituals, as I mentioned earlier, whether he has specific play pattern, whether he has specific eating habits, whether he has specific routines, or where he likes to wear specific type of clothes, where how is he in school, how is he with parents, how is he with friends. So this detailed history and daily routine will definitely help us before going for any official checklist or questionnaire or for any other thing. We can, on clinic level, we get to know what it is exactly, what are the SI issues the child having, what are the sensory issues, what are the communication issues child may have. IQ test, another important thing, because as I said, we also have the IQ spectrum starting from very high IQ going towards the mental retardation. Disability evaluation, very important factor, because if the child's hearing is affected and then you're terming that then you're putting the child into autism, that is absolutely wrong. Because if the child can't hear, how he is going to learn talking? If the child is not talking, you can't term the child autistic, because he has problem with his hearing. He may try non-verbal communication. That's why I mentioned earlier, communication, it could be verbal, it could be non-verbal. Then we also need to check for the behavioral assessment. A behavioral assessment in terms of how is the child's attachment with the parents, or maybe the child don't like to communicate with others. Why? Whether he has any assault, whether the child is having problem with connecting with the mother, or was there any problem in terms of child's behavioral status or the mental status. Now, very simple thing, if you're feeling that these all things are fine and the child is definitely having autism, let's do it in the clinic level. Like we have a questionnaire, very small questionnaire, which is available online for all of us, and it's MCHART, which is revised version. The follow-up is also available. Please check, you can check it on your mobile itself, that it is 20 questions. You just need to answer yes and no, of course the parents, and you will at least get an idea, okay, the most of the answers are yes, then the child needs help. The other one is CARS, that is Childhood Autism Rating Scale. This revised version, which CARS 2 is available now. It's worldwide used and it is used in India also. But the thing is, we are not the one who ideally use it. It is still, the CARS questionnaire is available online. The psychologists and the psychiatrists are ideally supposed to do it. And in this, again, there are same way, there are the questions and the parents supposed to answer it. along in front of the professionals. Now, why I had written Indian scales? Because there are a lot of questions which are I had seen in cards which are not apt for Indian population, for our kids. So there are scales which are almost similar to the cars, and the specificity is like equally good. And these scales we need to use on the rural population most of the times, which I have specifically seen at the Gulbarga level, where this is a district place and a lot of parents come from the outside Gulbarga. And then later we also have the diagnostic criteria like the autism diagnostic observation schedule and the communication and symbolic behavioral scale, the further detailed scales. And these scales, if you are feeling, on CARS or MCHART, if you are feeling that the child is definitely showing symptoms, then yes, we have to send them for the detailed evaluation. And this is MCHART. I just kept it for the reference. Now let's come to the management part of it. Management, it's a big thing itself. It's going to take a lot of hours. I'm not going to talk about it in detail. But yes, there is no cure to autism. But there are definite therapies which really works like wonder in management of autism. So there are discrete trials like applied behavioral analysis, the behavioral therapy basically. That's not our domain. Structured learning, that few kids may be good in maths because these kids do show problem in terms of learning. So we need to find out which is the strongest area for the child. We will be talking about visual schedules, SI, flow time, and social stories later. Enhancing language and communication. So yes, it is a multidisciplinary approach. So whenever you are getting a child and you are feeling that you are doing your job best, still the child is not talking, please send the child to a good speech therapist. Yes, because it's their domain. They are the best people who can help us out in the talking terms. I want to share one of my experience where we were treating the child for almost, like dealing with the child for almost 1 year. She came to us when she was 5 years old. She was diagnosed with autism. The official diagnosis was done. And still we like, she improved in many areas except for the communication, So there was no speech. We were very disappointed and we thought it's 5 years now, she's not going to get speech. Still, her mother was so dedicated and she continued going to a speech therapist. And after 1 year, what we realized is like the surprising thing, even for the speech therapist, that she learned to communicate through iPad. It was like learning experience for me as well, that yes, she started showing things on the laptop, on the iPad, that this is what I want or how I'm feeling. So this is another form of communication and we may achieve with a good therapy. So positive behavioral support, how the parents can help to the child. Picture exchange communication system is another definitely a very good system where we need to train the child, not our part as well. Pharmacotherapy, now what I believe personally is this will be the last thing where we are not able to control the behaviors of child, where we are not control the impulsivity of the child, and we cannot handle the child at home as well as at the therapy environment. Then I usually suggest them to go for a pharmacotherapy. Diet and nutrition, very important thing, because there are few studies which definitely says that the ketogenic diet is helping the kids with autism. There are few types of autism which are associated with seizure disorder. The studies are coming, and these seizures get controlled very well with the help of diet. So they are usually put on the ketogenic diet. There are KSCS diet, gluten-free diet, a lot of things. But currently the ketogenic diet is on boom. We also have hippotherapy, hydrotherapy, stem cell therapy, metronome therapy, but the data supporting these therapies are very less. That's why I'm not going into detail into it. So as I mentioned earlier, if we are thinking to manage autism, we first need to know what is a child's IQ, whether we are going to deal with a child who falls here or who's here, like extreme ability in some areas. So if the child is having, the great IQ, the high intelligence level, to this child, if in clinic while taking therapy, if I started asking him, can you just sing ABCD for me? I think he will say like, are you serious? No, so we can't do that. And if the child is having mild learning disability, if we are, instead of helping him with a special educator, if we tried helping him, giving support to his education, instead of that, if we keep doing physiotherapy or other therapy part with him, I don't think so it is going to give us the right results. Now, if there are a lot of people who come, and say, like, what therapy protocol you follow. So it's very simple. This is just, a gist of it, that day one, we just need to observe, because that's the best thing that we can do. Each kid with autism is different. They have different style of playing. They have different likings. They have different sensory issues, and they just show different techniques which we can help for therapy, which we can use for therapy. I'm sorry. This second session, we try to enter into child's world, because as I said, they have their own world. So there are few kids who just like to come and hug you and sit with you, but they don't like to play with you. Or there are some kids who like to go in the corner of the room. There are maybe few kids who just like to run around, and they will not like anyone next to them. Third session, you are going to try interventions here. Once you enter into child's world, you are going to try your intervention, like whatever you are best at. And the fourth, it should be goal directed play. So if you are seeing the child, like for NDT, how we keep the goal, in the same way we need to keep the goal for autism or for sensory integration or for whatever therapy we are using. Because if without goal, if you are going on and on and on, the therapy will go till 18 years or maybe beyond that, and that's not the right thing. We need to have the goal specific therapy. So as I mentioned, we are going to talk about visual schedule. What do you mean by visual schedule? So these kids have problems in understanding or paying attention to what you're talking, because they're not giving eye contact. If I'm talking to you, I'm giving good eye contact towards the screen so that people are trying to absorb maximum they can. But our kids, they are poor at it. So what we do usually, we are not running behind them, please look at me, I'm talking to you. No, we are just putting these pictures on the screen, on the wall, or maybe the cupboard which is next to the child, and looking at them, they learn very fast. So like if you want to go to school, so this is my schedule for school. So morning time bus, so that bus indicates, okay, so they remember I have to go to school, then I have to eat my snack, I need to play in a specific manner, I need to take bath, I need to have my snack and go to bed. Or probably in terms of playing also, so they need to play in a specific manner. They can't just run around, throw things, or they can snatch things, or there is a time allotted for everything. Now these visual schedules I have taken from Google, of course, but there are a lot of my parents, like clinic parents, they are using these schedules, handmade schedules. They are wonderful. I just couldn't share it today, but they can make it at home. So you can just tell the parents, you can guide them that if you want your child to brush, just draw a picture of brush, and that picture should be stick on the mirror probably, and the child will understand. So the mothers get tired behind running behind the kid all the time. Instead of that, this just a picture thing will work. And now this is not a miracle which is going to work in one day. Obviously it needs training. So the child is going there, the parents has to be there for few days, and later on they learn by their own, because I said they have specific rituals. So they learn things doing in a specific pattern, and once they are learned, they learned it. Social stories. Now social stories is another important point which definitely has a lot of papers available, and they say that these social stories do help kids with autism in a great deal. Now what do you mean by social stories? So if you want the child to follow a specific thing, the specific way of behavior, you need to form a story and you need to narrate it to the, this is not a visual schedule, okay? So you are not going to put it in front of child. You can use these like social stories to narrate it to the child, and later on if you want, you can stick it to the wall. So like a few kids just go and hug even anyone, so they may go and hug the driver, they may go and hug the teacher, which is sometimes socially not acceptable. There are few kids with autism, who keeps on fidgeting, like doing this, touching things, There are a lot of kids who very often they touch their genital because these are softest part and they feel soothing with it. So these things are not socially acceptable. They behave in a different manner, which is definitely not acceptable socially. So what we do is we just tell them in form of stories, like baby X don't will go to school, he will not hit others, he will sit on his chair, and for that he's going to get reward when he will come back to home. So this is some very simple story, and in the form of pictorial presentation we can just stick it on the wall. The child will get the mental reinforcement for the same thing, and you will see the better effects. So as I have given the example, that is personal space, understanding personal space. Like we can't go close to other person and talk near his or her mouth. We cannot touch them when they don't want. So if I want to touch you, I want to ask for your permission. There are definitely we also have a good touch and a bad touch. Like if we are giving high five, we can do shake hand, So there are different things we need to teach to our kids at different level, different ages. Now, how parents can help? Now, there are a lot of parents who come and they keep on crying, मेरे बच्चे को autism हो गया, now what to do? I can't help the child because child looks fine, but when it comes to, social gatherings, I'm not confident. The first thing is we need to reinforce the parents that this is not anything which is abnormal. They just have different ways of communication. So maybe first reinforcement, positive reinforcement for the parents, and then parents can help the kids in a better way. Sensory integration, as I mentioned, the tactile system is the first system, vestibular and proprioceptive system. Now there are a lot of studies coming out with the auditory integration therapy. They are also working very well with autism, but I personally believe the tactile system, vestibular system and prop system works like wonder in these kids. So I'll be showing few of the videos because of the time constraint. I'm just, I'm just going to show you what we do in clinic. But yes, we can use the vestibular system. Like we have different types of swing, lycra swing, bolster swing, platform swing. These swings helps us, to gaining the concentration of the child, and the child also enjoys it. Second thing is deep pressure in the form of sandwich therapy. You can play pull and push games with them. You can, directly before going for any sedentary activity, first thing that we need to do is giving calming effect, which is very much seen with the help of proprioceptive system. Giving boundaries to the child. Now these kids are most of the times all over the place, okay? So we need to give them boundary, just boundary like this, or maybe putting chairs when you are taking the therapy in one of the corners, so the child will not get distracted very easily, or he will not feel uncomfortable in your environment. Social stories or spending quality time. Why I have added this picture is, a passive parenting is coming into picture these days. So parents give screen or a cell phone to the child's hand, or they are on the phone and the child is playing all alone. This is one of the reason that there is autism, that there is an increased rate of autism, and there are papers available and which definitely says that it is one of the reason where the the GABA receptors or GABA neurotransmitters are not working properly, and the child is having speech delay or the communication problem. So spending quality time with them is one of the thing that we need to check in therapy. So what I do is like using vestibular system in different ways. So if you see this in clinic, what I do is in the scooter board, I'm just trying to give them activity, and it is a structured activity where where the kid need to start at certain point and he needs to end at certain point. I believe in group therapy more because this is what is lagging in our kids. So now this kid loves cars. So I cannot just tell him that go for a ball or go for a peg and fetch it. I tried it, and it just doesn't work. So I'll show it again. So when I have given car to him, he started moving. So before that, he spent a lot of time at one place itself and doing nothing. And somehow I achieved that, this kid, the other kid is going, the purple dress one is trying to go and, trying to take that car or maybe playing with him. Second, giving proprioceptive input. So we can add resistance. Again, the pull-push games are very useful, but there should be a goal-directed activity. The child is trying to reach to certain goal and he is doing it. Yes, this is a very common thing that all of us do. Maybe in the initial days, taking the child in the corner of the room and, you know, giving him things, and he should do that. Now, if you see, look at this child, he is just 1.5, but he is doing this activity like a pro. Now, he is definitely having a very good IQ, but on the day one, if I take him inside the therapy room in a corner, and if I do these things to him, he will finish it. There will not be any kind of happiness on his face. He will not try to connect with me. He will not ask for the toy. He will sit at one place. So what we have to do is, first we need to go with these things where the child is running around, he's trying to regulate himself, and then do the next activity in sitting. No taking child in sitting on the day one or immediately, you know, when the child is coming to you. Now, there are a lot of things which I can definitely add in terms of therapy, but I am not going to do that because I'm here mainly to talk about what do you mean by lockdown, how we like, not what do you mean by lockdown, but what we are going to do in lockdown. Like therapists and parents both have the same complaints. The clinics are not working. The behavior goes, you know, bad day by day. What to do? So there are a lot of things which we can do, you know, include kids in daily routine, give them work, and trust me, no one is going to call you, you know, that you are making them do child labor. This, in this way, they are going to feel that they are part of the family. You can also introduce lot of textures. You can also introduce lot of inputs such as tactile system. You can give them different activities in different way, that, you know, they will also feel that they are part of a family, they are doing something, they are helpful for the family. Plus, we can just now the same activity where she is wiping the floor, the floor is wet, and she's a tactile defensive child where she's walking barefoot. So it's very good experience for her, and probably she's enjoying it, that's why she's still doing it. So taking heavy things, putting them on certain place, that suggests that, you know, you have the things goes on certain place. We need to keep things at certain place. The child will not throw things. This is one of the monsters that I have in my clinic, and he, you know, he used to throw things like anything. Now the mother is so happy. She shared this video happily with me that, you know, he started doing things in an organized manner. We can also give them activities like, you know, they will be of little help for sure. So it is a kind of a sensory input again, where they are trying to sort out things, where they are trying to copy you. The imitation part comes into picture, which is like one of the very wonderful things, which is not very you know, often seen. Now parents can give definitely a quality time, teach them things which for which they were not getting time, you know, in these days, because of the busy schedules or because of your other commitments. So yes, he see now, so like he's showing such a wonderful coordination. This thing was missing in him, and definitely I can't teach him cycling at a therapy room. I can't spend a lot of time on that. Now, I don't think so the audio is available, but what this is one of the kid who started reading as well as the other language in this quarantine time. So this is one of the greatest achievement, what I say, not mine, but definitely of parents and for the kid, because he learned in this period reading books. So he is reading, he started reading by his own, he is mildly affected. I wish the audio was on, but I just can't. Then again, the concentration is on writing. We are thinking to, you know, to send few of them to normal school. So at home, they started spending a lot of time on writing, scribbling, holding pencil, holding in a right manner. So I want to show this video first. This is a kid who used to have problems going in social places, sitting on the swing, playing with others. And trust me, mother had a tough time. And now the same kid, after therapy, look at him. Oh my God, see the confidence. Yes, so that was, I want to end here with my happy story. These are the references. So being different isn't a bad thing. It just, you are brave enough to be yourself in this world. So that's my favorite line, and I'm open for questions now. Ma'am?
Yes. I think my video has to be unmuted. Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Radhika. It was a very informative session, and you have a beautiful clinic.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and we loved watching you treat the children. Yes, we have a few questions here. So I would like to first start off from the question answer session here. Um, okay. Yes. Okay, we have a lot of questions. Fine, we will address each one of them. Okay. Someone is asking, what is the difference between autism and ADHD? I think you touched that point. So,
Yes, like I've just gone through it. So these two are two big topics, definitely. But please understand, these ADHD kids never have problem in terms of making friends. In fact, they have awesome friends. They don't have problems in terms of communication, cognition. Few of them are, in fact, very good. But they have problem in terms of attention. So because of poor attention, sometimes they are lagging behind in terms of making friends, or in terms of cognition, like the school performance. But it is very much different than autism, because autistic kids cannot make friends. They have genuine problem in terms of their cognition and their communication.
yes. And another viewer is asking, are CP and autism similar? Cerebral palsy and autism, are they similar?
No, 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 not at all. The cerebral, see, I did not touch the pathophysiology, but yes, for autism, the main reason is genetic causes, the upbringing of the child, like the social, the parental or the environmental factors. But whereas cerebral palsy has definite insult in prenatal stage, the natal stage, during pregnancy. So that is any trauma to developing brain. So the pathophysiology is totally different.
Yes. So, how long can we train autism child? Like, how long? What will be the session timings to treat an autism child?
So again, it is like it is tailored made thing. So if, as I said, it should be a goal oriented approach. So parents are coming to you for what reason, what they want exactly. They want the child should sit at one place, listen to you, talk to you, or what the parents are expecting first. And second thing, what do you feel like? What is your evaluation says what the child can reach? So for example, the few examples which I showed, few of them were just throwing things. The parent came with the minimal expectation that the child should sit at one place, whereas I thought they have potential, and few of them are going into normal school now. And I'm very proud and happy to tell you that two of them are started writing at the age of 5 years itself. So yes, it is definitely depending on our assessment. And the therapy protocol, it varies, but I usually prefer to take sessions 45 minutes to 1 hour. That is 3 to 4 times depending on the severity, mild, moderate, severe. So for mildly autistic, I usually go with the 2 sessions per week, whereas moderate to severe, not usually severe, but moderate level, 3 to 4 sessions per week for 45 minutes.
Okay. So, someone is asking, what are the main causes of autism and how can it be prevented?
Okay, so yes, passive parenting is one of the thing. Genetic defects, like if the parents are having autism disorder, so there are high chances even the child may have it, because the genetic inheritance is seen in most of them. Then preterm babies, there are a lot of preterm babies, and few of them definitely shown, prone for autism. Passive parenting in terms of, as I said, there is no quality time spent with the kid. Screen time is one of the thing which I had seen that that melopsin gene is showing some effect, and which is related with the cognitive defect and the speech delay. So yes, these are the pointers.
Okay, and there's another question here for us. Uh, as most of the evidences suggest the role of an occupational therapist. So, what do you think is the role of a physiotherapist in treating the autism spectrum disorders?
Okay, so what you're looking at, there are a lot of kids who has problem in terms of daily routine, you know. So maybe the parents also and the kid also, they don't want anything extra. They just want that the child should perform daily routine. And definitely it's not our role. Then the treating occupation, it's the basic role of occupational therapist. But I definitely want to mention this point that a lot of physiotherapists have done sensory integration. We have great knowledge about sensory integration, and 80 to 90% of the kids with autism have sensory issues. So we are the one who are going to help them in, you know, processing these issues in a right way. So our role comes there.
Okay, and someone is asking if you can give any examples of the goals that you'd set for a severely affected child with autism.
Okay, so as I gave one example that we did not keep a goal that the girl who had severe autism will talk, but at least we want
Hello?
no, stammering is altogether different. It's a speech problem, and there are definitely we have treatment, but yes, it's not our domain. It is a speech therapist who deals with it. So not as such, there is no problem in terms of oral cavity, no intra or extra oral, you know. So that's why I said the disability evaluation is very much important. That they don't have any issues in terms of their oral cavity or speech issues like stammering or any other problem.
Okay. So, are there any objective measures in order to measure the severity of autism? Like how we have DSM 4 and 5 as a diagnostic criteria. So, do we have anything to measure the severity of autism?
Yes, it is. We also, you know, divide in terms of mild, moderate, and severe type of autism. But again, it is detailedly mentioned in terms of psychiatric disorders. So if we check, go back and see the books, there it is there. But for treating, it comes with your own experience. Like, you know, the child is responding well. Like mild autism child may show good cognitive abilities, good speech and communication, less stereotypy. So if we want to put it as general, we can put it as mild, moderate, severe, but there is a specific criteria available.
Okay. And there's another question, ma'am, on the scales again. So, the current scales of the question is, are they age specific? Or is it the same, like, or the same scale is going to be used for all the ages?
So the cars, what I've read till now, is very much applicable from the age till 3 to 18 years old, and the specificity and the sensitivity is almost 86%. Specificity is 86% and sensitivity is 71%, and it does not change. The result does not change over the age. So, you know, that's why CARS is a standardized tool which has been used since years. Yes, MChat and other things has less reliability, but we can definitely go with the cars
Okay.
for all ages.
And another question, can visual tracking be objectively measured?
No, like it is not related with autism, of course, but for baby's age, if you just read the normal development, so first, first months of life, the child can track 0 to 30 degrees, but we're not going to check with the goniometer on, you know, like the how many degrees the child is seeing. The later on, till 1.5 months to 3 months, the child goes till 45 degrees and then 90 degrees, but not in autism. Like we don't see the tracking in that way.
Okay. And another question, at what age is IQ assessment done, ideally?
So usually IQ assessment starts by 6 years because that's the age when the child can comprehend well and he or she understand the questions well. So it is from same range like 6 to 16 years. This is what the range for IQ assessment.
Okay. And someone wants to know if if autism is congenital or hereditary, or what are the reasons for autism again? Like, can it be congenital? I think we've lost connection with ma'am again.
Yeah. Could you go ahead?
Muted, yes. Okay, ma'am. There's another question, ma'am. Does MRI or EEG show any abnormality in autism?
Very nice question. So yes, there are a lot of fMRIs has been done for the autism, and that do show the problems, or the size of the frontal lobe has been seen that it is less as compared to the typically developing kid. Now it is, we can easily correlate. That's why these kids do have problem in terms of cognition and communication part of it, because that is related with your frontal lobe functions. So these kids also have the motor clumsiness, and that's why the other areas are also affected, but very much related with the frontal lobe function. And in terms of EEG, yes, there are a lot of studies which are coming up that autistic kids do show problem in terms of seizures. So they do get seizures, and for that the studies has been coming up, but it is not direct correlation that all the autistic kids have seizures.
Okay. Another question: how do you treat a child with hyperactivity who doesn't sit in a place?
Okay, so that's again the ADHD question, not the autistic question. But the treatment strategies varies. Now, for me, I feel whichever system works well with the child, it is a tailored program. So there are few kids. I usually go with the assessment first. I think sensory profile will give you better idea. The history part will give you better idea. The child feels soothing with the vestibular system or the proprioceptive system or the combined system. So the child who, if the child is not sitting at one place, probably I will try to, give a nice hug to him, or take the child with me on the swing, or doing roly poly on the ground. And, instead of making him sit at one place, as I mentioned in the autism treatment also, that I will try with the lot of play activity first, then going for the sedentary one.
Yes. And ma'am, someone is asking, will traumatic brain injury leads to autism?
Yes, there are a few things which says that there is a problem with like these kids do show signs and symptoms like autism, but most of the kids who has problem like traumatic injuries, they usually go for ADHD than going for autism. So not autism per se.
Okay. Can autism and cerebral palsy coexist?
Yes, very much. So autism and cerebral palsy, autism and ADHD, very much they are, they may present all together. But again, the pathophysiology is different for both of them. The child may have the cerebral insult in the initial life, is already case of cerebral palsy, and the child still he is doing things properly, he knows how to communicate, but the child is, that we have not paid attention to him, to his communication or talking to him, and this child then may show problems in terms of interaction. So yes.
And there are a few questions on the Facebook also, ma'am. Someone is asking, what are the musculoskeletal impairments that could be associated with autism, and how can we treat them?
So what I have seen, that these kids do have a lot of motor clumsiness. They have atypical gait. So if you are dealing with these kids and if they are coming to you early age, they usually are the one who show sometimes a great motor delay, like head lag may be present in the initial. If you go to check the milestones, they also show abnormal gait, or balance issues are very common. Usually these kids show low tone in initial years of their life. So these are the very prime issues, and we can definitely deal with them as physiotherapist.
Yes. And ma'am, when you were talking about the different scales that you have for diagnosing autism or assessing autism, someone is asking, are there any Indian scales which can be used for assessment, especially for our Indian kids?
So there is a like similar version of CARS which is available for Indian kids. So it is so it is autism rating scale for Indian kids, and in the same way, like for all the things we usually try to go for these scales which are based on Indian population, but like we are not the one who usually go for these like Binet Kama test of for IQ is one of the Indian scales, but the psychologists are the right people who decide which scale they should go for.
Okay, so someone is asking now, occupational therapist also definitely plays a role in treating these children. So the difference between, how do we set our goals so that there will be no clash between an occupational therapist and the physiotherapist? So what are the issues that we are going to address, and what are the issues an occupational therapist can address?
Okay, so ideally there should not be a clash because we work, all of us work hand to hand. Like we have specific areas. As I mentioned, they do have a lot of delays in terms of their gross motor and fine motor skills. They have bad handwriting. They have poor gait. They sometimes do show unusual behaviors. So we all play an important role in each aspect. So if you are trying to deal with handwriting, I think the proximal stability, which is very important component for handwriting, where we are the one, who are going to give them a lot of resisted exercises, lot of animal walks, lot of strengthening exercises. And later on, the same kid we can send to an occupational therapist who can sit with him for whatever prescribed time they usually take therapy, and he can start with the pre-writing skills with the child. Like obviously they are the better people, who can talk about it. But yes, we have definite roles where we are dealing with the strength, where we are dealing with the sitting tolerance, when we are dealing with the activity level and participation of the child.
Yes. And a Facebook user I think there's a question from the Facebook viewer. My sister's baby is very hyperactive and not even sleeping in a day. So what do we have to, how can we help them?
So again, hyperactivity question. So yes, there are a lot of techniques. If the baby, if I get to know the baby's age, that'll be great. But I'll just tell you that in general, there are a lot of things that we can use, like the fixed schedules works best, because I'm talking about the abnormal babies as well. So rituals, the like 10 o'clock lights off, that works best. Second thing, giving bath or gentle massage using aroma oils, putting nice candles in baby's room, or scented pillows which are available, or scented also a soothing music, which is like there are beautiful toys available, and these toys gives nice soothing music. Along with that, bedtime stories, the ritual part of it, if we follow that. And the therapy per se, we can use the weighted jackets, weighted blankets. If the child is hyperactive, is not sleeping, it really works well. Giving tight hugs, or any physical activity like wheelbarrow walking, animal walks just before the child is going to bed.
Yeah. So there's another question. Trying to interact with a child in the initial phase is very difficult. So because they're not cooperating, so how do we start the treatment session, and how do we get to know the child?
So I told you in the first one of the slides that my laptop is not working currently because of the issue. So I could have showed that first session, just know your child, what child likes. He's not cooperative because he don't want to do what you like to do. He wants to do what he likes to do. So maybe taking the child in his comfort zone, like we are going to enter in his child's comfort zone, and then dealing with the child, maybe putting the child on the swing, singing for him. He will not pay attention to you once, twice, but third time he may. Or if the child don't want you to touch him, don't go and touch him and try to show him. Maybe you can just throw a TheraBand at him and then see if you can move the swing. This is just an example. And then you can enter into child's field, and then you can
take out what you want.
Okay. So, and how do you tackle the challenges you face with the parents? Like when you try to explain to the parents what the child is facing, and when you try to tell them the current situation, do they argue with you, and do they deny that their child has a problem?
A lot of time they do go into denial, but see, they don't have any options other than us. So we need to understand that we have to, empathize and sympathize both ways to them, and we need to try to connect to them that the child, first we need to convince them that the child is not having any abnormality. Your child has been given, two hands, two legs, eyes, nose, everything is fine, and we can definitely deal with these, issues like communication, because there is definite therapy present for it, and we are going to try our best. After that, if nothing happens, it's not in our hand. But yes, we need to convince the child, because the child is coming to you for therapy 2 to 3 hours in a week, but rest of the entire time he's going to be with parents. So if the parents are depressed, please send them to for counseling. It's very, very important, and trust me, it helps a lot, because I had seen the parents who are having, positive reinforcement to the kids have the greater and best results.
Okay, and I think we have a parent who's watching us live on FB. So she's asking, her child is autistic, and the child is around 12 years of age. So how to manage his anger, the child's anger?
Okay, so we do have, behavioral counseling available. I'm not the right person, but still there are different strategies that we use, like just to guide parents. That we also have reward system and punishment system. What we do is, if the child has done particular thing nicely, then we give the reward to the child. The reward is not in terms of chocolate. The reward is not in terms of, any particular toy. So probably the child gets hug from the parent, or a specific colors maybe from the parents. Second thing, we also use the social stories. So if the child is angry, instead of, for emotional outbursts, the social stories works very well. I request this parent to please check available resources on Google for social stories. When the child is angry, he may, we can just give a fidget toy or spinner to him, and the child will try to, or maybe the, counting thing like 1 to 10, or probably hugging a pillow, or you can just introduce something like a boxing bag or punching bag to the child, and he can take out the anger, and then he can come back to you. Also, we say the, the time free zone to the child. Like whenever the child is angry, you should just walk out of the room, you should go to a calm place, sit, and then come back.
Okay. Yes. So, and someone is asking, why are Indians more affected? Like you said, the number of autistic kids in India are more compared to the other countries. So, why are Indians more affected than
No,
other countries?
I did not say that Indians are more affected. Of course not. But yes, it's very depressing that our number is increasing. Like in US, it is 1 into 68 per 68 kids. So definitely they have more, problems than us. But it's very simple. We are copying them. For a lot of things, we are copying them, that we are taking our kids, instead of, sitting together for dinner time. Everyone is sitting in their own rooms and having dinner. These are very simple pointers where we stop sharing the family time, the quality time with the family members. Second, very important thing is, these days the parents are very competitive than kids. So they want their kids to be engaged in the sedentary work, like, craft class and handwriting class and a lot of classes. But we need to understand, if the physical development is great, then only the mental development is going to be best. So yeah.
And how about nutrition? What are the role? What is the role of nutrition in autism? And also, what foods are included in GFCF diet?
So I'm very sorry, but my knowledge about nutrition is really not great. What I know, minimal things about the keto diet and all, it's, everything is from the neurophysicians who are prescribing, and also the nutritionist who's associated with my clinic. But I'm really bad at it. I'm very sorry. I'll definitely read about it and get back to you.
So, are there any books for sensory integration? So, one of the viewers is asking if you can suggest any books on sensory integration, and the name of the author.
Yeah, there are a lot of books. So, Sensory Integration by Jean Ayers. There is a Bundy, which is very wonderful book, and all of us are like in PG days. A lot of postgraduates do refer to the same book. There are a lot of books which talk about the sensory integration and LDT therapy by Arna Blanche, who was even my instructor for my sensory integration workshop. So these are the basic books you can go through for sure.
Okay. And are there any checklists to assess Asperger's syndrome, like how we have it for autism?
No, we don't have a checklist per se, but we definitely have a criteria, DSM-5 criteria for Asperger's. Now, for that, you need to go to DSM-4 criteria, I mean to say, because in DSM-4, they have a separate criteria. DSM-5, they have combined it all together. So, there is no separate criteria for Asperger's, but DSM-4, yes, it is there.
And why is the sleep pattern disturbed in ASD children?
No, it's not like that always. That it may be, they may have disturbed sleep, but they may have. It's very much specific. It's not like that they have disturbed sensory patterns. There are few kids who sleep nicely, like you and me.
Okay. We'll just see if any of the viewers want to. There's one person, Lee 2. He would like to speak, I guess. You can speak and ask Dr. Radhika whatever doubts you have. I'm not sure if he's around. Meena Agarwal, do you want to ask the speaker anything? Meena Agarwal. Do we need to unmute, sir? Sai, sir?
We have actually.
Okay. Even Radhika R.
Just check.
Okay, so meanwhile, there's another question. How to help a child who is too much engrossed in moving fingers and or toys in front of the eyes? So if they are in their own world, how do you
Yes.
help
So
them?
yeah. So I will definitely suggest that we need to check system wise the evaluation of the child system wise, and what child's need exactly, or why child is doing that. Maybe he's just trying to calm himself down, or that may be one of his habit or the stereotypy. And if you get to know that, maybe you can just introduce some other system where the child is equally comfortable, and then you can introduce something else where you can bring child's attention at.
Okay. So one of the Facebook viewers by name Prayas Suvedi is asking if the fidget spinner is helpful.
Yes, very much helpful. So if the child is feeling comfortable with fidget spinner, yes, why not? If it is one of the activity, if the child is getting calm, why not? But any toy for that matter, if it is coming hindering the function of the child, like if the child is continuously with the fidget spinner in school as well, then it's not allowed. So you can give, as I said, the time free zone. So that time, if the child is feeling uncomfortable, or if he's feeling severe urge to search some sensation, maybe he can do that for certain period, and then the child's mother or parent or probably the teacher can intervene and say, okay, the time's off, now you have to come back to your work.
Yes, I think with that, I think we've answered most of the questions.
We have Dr. Radhika, madam, who would be asking the question. One second.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, I do dealing with a child with autism. The child has a habit of laughing suddenly. So I don't know how to relate it. So what do I do? How do I treat the child?
Okay, so since how long the child is doing the same thing?
Ma'am, he is 2.5 years old.
Okay.
So it's been noticed by the parent as well as the therapist also.
Okay, so maybe see if he is laughing loudly, have you checked with the auditory system? Because sometimes they self-talk, to soothe their auditory system. Sometimes they just laugh. It could be a loud laugh or keep on banging. So not just laughing. I think the detailed evaluation of all the sensory system is one of the thing. Second, the behavioral issues. Why the child is laughing? He's laughing with reason, without reason. Is it at home? Is it at school or at the therapy room? Is it everywhere same, or does he that, or is he doing that very often, or have he learned it from someone? So you need to go with all the things, and at the end, if there is no reason, then maybe you can try introducing something else with which you can reduce it. You can't say that it is going to go off completely, because the child is just 2.5 years old. And at the same time, you can start teaching him social stories, like where he can laugh out loudly, not everywhere.
Ma'am, he has a he usually does it with a sudden vacant stare. He'll be in a therapy session and suddenly he'll start laughing, and it'll be nowhere relevant to it.
Have you checked with the auditory system of the child, like the auditory system evaluation?
Yes, ma'am. He's totally fine. He's able to hear.
No.
He's an
I'm talking about the sensory system. So you can do short sensory profile just for the quick review, or also long sensory profile from 2.5. So 7 to 23 months. There is another sensory profile available where there are certain questions of auditory systems. So whether the child is doing particular activity to seek the audition, like to seek some sounds. You can do that. You can get back to me. My email ID I'll be posting, so you can just get back to me with the same.
Okay, ma'am. And one more question can I ask, ma'am?
Yes, please.
How do you treat it? The child also has a stacking behavior. That is, during the therapy session, he starts stacking things in his hand, and he doesn't allow it. So how do you go on with it?
So it's the same thing. The child needs to be, either he don't like the activity what you are giving him, or second thing, he's trying to soothe himself, the calming technique. So we need to check what makes him, if the stacking is making him happy, you can try giving him something in his hand which is heavy. Like probably next time you can keep weighted cuffs, because weighted activities are going to help him for proximal stability. It is going to help him to generate the calming behavior. So you can introduce the activity what he likes in your way, which will help you better in your therapy.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am.
The next viewer, Meena Agarwal. Would you like to speak? Meena Agarwal? Or lead to? Another viewer, lead to?
Hello, ma'am. This is Meena Agarwal. I am just
Yes, please speak.
looking to the mirror or shadows. They love to watch. Why do they do this? So,
Hello, Meena.
why do children look into the mirror mostly and to the shadows also?
So yes, again, a lot of question goes to your sensory behaviors. So one of the thing is they like to engage themselves in their own world. So they look at themselves, they are happy moving their body parts and looking at themselves. They are relaxed, they don't have to interact with the mirror, first thing. Second thing, there are no expectations, like it's just one-way communication. They don't want to talk to someone all the time. Second and third thing, sometimes it could be the visual hypo behavior, where they seek a lot of visual inputs and they keep looking at the shining things, the bright things, the mirrors, shadows, and sometimes even fan or blinking lights, or for that matter advertisement on the television.
How to stop it? How to stop it?
Okay, so we cannot stop it completely, as I said, but visual therapy helps. Like I recently started for few of my kids that, you know, maybe you can just darken the room. You can keep one of the tub or basket and put your mobile phone's light under it. So only that part is illuminated. The child's attention will definitely go to that. And maybe you can take the child on the swing or maybe on the ball, and you can just start teaching the child the throwing or maybe the catching throw activity with the child. In this case, in this way, the child's attention will come off from the swing, from the mirror, and probably he will or she will try look at the thing which is shining.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
And we have another question from Mr. Jahir Abbas. Would you like to ask it for yourself? I think he's even posted it in the question answer session. Mr. Jahir Abbas?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, please go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for your nice deliberation. I'm a physiotherapist, also pediatrics, masters in pediatrics, and practicing in Kolkata.
Okay,
so
sir.
I have a lot of kids with autism, and after this lockdown, when I have resumed my clinic, so what I am seeing, a lot of children are having problem with, like, they're playing with saliva, they're putting their hand into the mouth, like full fist into their mouth, and a lot of children are getting auditory sensitivity. So how can we plan something which helps them that they can carry over at home and can calm this down as an emergency?
See, I will suggest what I did in my clinic also. I'll suggest the same thing to you, that first, please go for the re-evaluation. What we do is when the child is coming to us, we do nice assessment. Okay. But this lockdown period, it's been a very long period. So there are definitely a lot of changes. These changes are maybe in terms of behaviors. It could be in terms of their, poor tolerance. And third thing could be in terms of their sensory issues. Now just imagine you and you are all the way, like you are so busy in your clinic life, and suddenly for 2 months I'm keeping you are with your wife. It's so horrible, isn't it? So, we are getting frustrated. So just imagine what will happen to our kids who cannot express it verbally. It's more frustrating for them, and when they are coming to you and you are expecting them to do certain activities, they are more frustrated. That's why the self-soothing behavior, like putting hands to their mouth, lot of saliva, that is another sign that the systems are not functioning properly. Developing auditory sensitivity, like you are giving lot of inputs to the child. So please minimize your inputs. First is assessment, reassessment. Second is minimizing input from therapy point of view. Third is sensitizing parents for the same, that ideally we should have done a home program for them, because this lockdown period has been extended for quite a long time now. So probably reducing the therapy sessions and increasing sessions at home, not sessions per se, but different quality activities with parents for this time. So you can try that out.
Thank you, ma'am. And how tele-rehabilitation is helping us? Like, are you also taking tele-rehabilitation?
So what I did it is I had taken the talk for parents, telling them a lot of sensory issues, telling them about autism, telling them about cerebral palsy, and to my surprise, a lot of parents came with the awesome ideas. Instead of me suggesting them, they had suggested a lot of things to me. So I'm very thankful to all the parents who are there from Gulbarga and surrounding places, that they had given wonderful ideas. But I am not a person who's like more into teletherapy, because I feel therapy is therapist part and parents should do what they're supposed to do. So I have not done that. I'm very sorry.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Ma'am, so one last question for the day. How do we manage weight control in Rett syndrome?
Yes, so it's another nice question. So it is related with the genetic disorder again. So what I do personally, I had seen, and like I had just seen one case of it, and in that case, we had told parents that they need to meet the nutritionist for the same because they are the right people. But along with that, in the therapy, we had given a lot of weighted activities and also the treadmill training. And that's what I was in Mumbai, where we had the very nice setup, and we had done the overall rehabilitation where we looked at each and every aspect including child's behavior, meeting the behavioral therapist and the psychologist, the nutritionist, and for not just we have not just gone to a normal NDT or SI for that bit, but we had gone for the aerobic and the Zumba for the child.
Okay. So thank you so much, Dr. Radhika, for being so patient and answering all the questions. I hope all the viewers were benefited from whatever the talk that you've given and also the questions that you've answered. Thank you so much for being here. Over to
Thank
Dr. Sai.
Thank you, Dr. Sudhira. You've been a wonderful moderator, taking questions from both Facebook as well as the chat box, and I'm sure we've touched all the questions here, if I'm not wrong. We've
Yes.
been getting lots of questions. This topic is such, right? Because when it's related to kids, it's more of the whole family getting into it, and hopefully we will try to change lives of people, treating the kids and getting them better. So thank you, Dr.
Yes.
Sudhira, for wonderfully moderating it.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you, Dr. Rajini. It's been a wonderful talk, and most of the audience were into the talk, and we have lots of likes and views in Facebook as well. It's a wonderful topic, and I think people need more of insight onto it, and I'm sure we will have more of interactions and workshops from you in the future, and you will be able to share your knowledge as well with others. So
Thank you
thank you
so
very
much.
much for being a part
Thank
of
you.
this webinar.
Thank
Thank you
you.
once again to one and all. Good night. Thank you.
Good day. Good night.